Imagine being millions of miles from home, floating inside a tiny spacecraft, and suddenly realizing that even something as simple as eating a meal has become a serious problem. Before America could put a man on the moon, NASA had to answer a question that sounded almost ordinary. How do you feed a human being in space? Because getting to the moon required rockets, computers, and astronauts. But astronauts could not survive on technology alone. They needed food. And in the strange world of zero gravity, food could become a problem no one on Earth had ever faced before. In the early days of America's space program, NASA wasn't even sure how the human body would react to eating without gravity. Would astronauts be able to swallow? Would food float into sensitive equipment? Would crumbs get into their eyes? Or damage the spacecraft? The first American astronauts were given meals that barely looked like meals at all. Pureed food came in metal tubes. Other foods were compressed into tiny cubes. It was efficient. It was lightweight. But according to many astronauts, it was terrible. NASA had solved the problem of getting food into space. They still hadn't solved the problem of making astronauts actually want to eat it. And that was becoming a serious issue. A crew preparing for an historic mission needed enough calories, nutrients, and energy to perform at their best. A perfect meal on paper was useless if nobody wanted to eat it. So NASA's food scientists went back to work. They experimented with new packaging, new preservation methods, and foods that could survive for days without spoiling. Freeze-dried meals became one of the most important breakthroughs. Water could be removed from food on Earth, making it lighter for launch. Then, astronauts could add water back inside the spacecraft, but even this created new problems. The food had to taste right. It had to be easy to prepare. And most importantly, it couldn't create dangerous crumbs floating through the cabin. NASA was learning something unexpected. Sending humans to the moon meant reinventing dinner. Then came Apollo. As America moved closer to its goal of landing on the moon, space food improved dramatically. Apollo astronauts had hot water available to prepare some of their meals. New packages allowed astronauts to eat with spoons. And NASA introduced more foods that looked and tasted closer to what people ate on Earth. Then, on Christmas Day, 1968, 3 American astronauts were traveling farther from home than any humans in history. The crew of Apollo 8 had become the first people to orbit the moon, and inside their spacecraft, NASA had prepared a surprise. A Christmas dinner, turkey and gravy, cranberry sauce, a grape drink. For astronauts floating around the moon, this wasn't just another meal. It was a small piece of Earth. The turkey and gravy came in a new type of package that could be eaten with a spoon, and unlike many earlier space foods, the meal was a success. The astronauts loved it. One crew member reported that it was delicious. After years of tubes, cubes, and disappointing meals, NASA had finally discovered something important. Food wasn't just fuel. Food could boost morale, it could remind astronauts of home, and it could make an impossible journey feel just a little more human. By July 1969, America achieved what once seemed impossible. Apollo 11 landed on the moon. The world watched as Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin made history. Behind that incredible moment were thousands of inventions, thousands of scientists, and thousands of problems that had to be solved, including something as ordinary as lunch. Because the journey to the moon wasn't powered only by rockets, it was also powered by food. Carefully designed, carefully packaged, and carefully prepared to survive in a place where even a tiny crumb could float away. So when we remember America's race to the moon, we remember the astronauts, the Saturn V rocket, mission control, and that historic first step. But somewhere behind all of those famous moments was another quiet achievement: the scientists who made sure that when America reached the moon, its astronauts had enough strength to keep going. Because sometimes, even history's greatest journey begins with the question, what's for dinner?